you love young people. Beyond loving young people, you love the fact that young people are really the ones that move our political issues forward. Fowler Nation. We're joined by Marlon Marshall, founding director.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Partner.
Director of 270 Strategies,
Yep.
which is an organization fueled by young people,
Yes.
founded by young people, starring young people, featuring young people, and produced by young people.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's the first time on. It's the first time in Fowler Nation.
It's very good to be here, man. I heard a lot about the show.
Oh, well, so now tell me, you guys are doing some interesting work when it comes to mobilizing young people on the ground, peer-to-peer communication.
Yep.
First in the Cory Booker campaign and in other places. Where are you guys? Because you seem to be everywhere. 270 is a big number, and that means a lot of states.
Well, you know how many electoral votes you need to elect the president.
I know that.
Which means we got to be all across the board to make sure that we're going to be good. But no, we're helping Cory Booker, as you just said. We're also working on a congressional campaign in California, Ro Khanna for Congress. And then
wait, this is Ro Khanna who raised $1 million in the second quarter.
That's right.
All right.
Okay. Right. just for clarification. Right.
Just for clarification purposes.
And then we actually have just a ton of other kind of a mix between really mostly nonprofit work. So a lot of some of the big issues of the day, immigration reform, education reform, et cetera. We're working with different organizations to really help them put together their strategy and organize as well too. And young people. The thing I love the most is that young people are involved in kind of all of this. A lot of folks, when you talk to young people and try to organize young people, they forget sometimes to talk about the issues. And these issues are important to young people, so we have them engaged in all the work that we're doing as well.
And I love that. I think it sort of speaks volumes, because I think what you hear sometimes from and I want to make the distinction here, from the Democratic Party, and I love them, and the progressive movement, is in the Democratic Party you hear a lot of, well, we like young people, they could put signs up, they can make phone calls, they can knock on doors, but can't run for office yet, they got to wait their turn, we've been here for 10 years, blase, blase, blase.
Right.
That seems to be changing.
I think so. I think that particularly this generation of young people are getting more engaged. And I just said on stage in the session I just did, I think we're at a critical point where there's some really critical pieces of legislation that the president's trying to push through. And young people are going to have a very powerful voice in this, right? And so I think we're at a point where if things don't happen and if the gridlock doesn't stop in Congress, do you either kind of become detached from your politics, or do you actually rise up and do something about it? And what I've seen from this generation of young people right now is they're trying to rise up and do something about it. And I think that changes the way that we organize, because it's not just, hey, go out and do this, but it's like, become engaged, tell your actual story of why you're doing this work, and then go out and do the tactics that are going to support that strategy.
And I love that. Talking about the tactics and engaging in the strategy, a recent report came out. I'm not sure if folks read it. We've talked about it in the Fowler Show a couple of times. The college Republicans released a report on how to, branding the grand old party for a new generation. And in part of that report, they talk about the fact that the congressional average age of Republicans is decreasing, while the congressional age of Democrats is increasing.
Right.
Which, perplexing, because, Democrats have to happen to have the youth vote behind them. And I think, you guys are in a very interesting place because we need to work on bringing this age down.
I think that, well, one, Republicans have more seats.
That is true. So they do have a comparative advantage.
They have a comparative advantage to be able to do that, you know what I mean? But part of the beauty, I think, of one, being able to work on President Obama's campaign, particularly this last time of the reelect, and getting more young people engaged in the issues of the day right now, is those are going to be our future leaders, right? And so the more we pull them in, and the more that we, again, get them involved because of the issues, and get them to share their story, and get them to utilize their networks to advance their own personal politics, I think we're also, in a sense, training them to run for office one day, right? So one of the stat I like, and this is not just necessarily young people, but volunteers in general, 70% of the volunteer corps from the campaign said they wanted to continue doing stuff moving forward, right? And I think those are our future, county council folks, mayors, just local elected officials. That's how you kind of start off, and then you become a state rep or state senator, and then you kind of go through the ranks, right? I think you're going to see a lot of young people realize that, yes, I'm going to get engaged, and yes, I'm going to go out and register voters, and that's really important. But after that, too, I'm going to run for school board, and then I'm going to run for mayor. And so I think that trend will be starting, because, again, I think people are starting to rise up.
And I think you talk, and I think and Marlon, I think you're exactly right. And you put that, like, no, take that conversation out of the vacuum and look at what's happening, all across the country. You look what happened in Texas with Wendy Davis, where young people said, we will not let you vote on this. I don't care if you're elected or not. We'll make as much noise as possible to block this vote. I think we're seeing sort of the same movement. After last week's verdict, young people are the ones leading the protests. Young people are the ones leading the rallies. While we have our older civil rights leaders there, we're the one moving this movement forward.
Yep, that's totally right. That's totally right. I think what you're saying too is, particularly in the second term for the president, there's a real true understanding of that. It can't just be the president running the mantle down and saying, I'm going to go out and get all this stuff done. He needs a team, and he needs folks to be able to help, right? And so the more, like you said, young people are getting engaged and standing up for their rights in Texas. And yes, unfortunately, that law passed, but now, next election, I think you're probably going to see a bigger share of young people actually go out and vote because they know that's going to get a law like that to reverse. So I think you're going to see a lot more engagement, particularly in like off-year elections and more local elections than just presidential elections. And if that happens, watch out, conservatives.
Oh no, I think you're. And I listen. You're completely right. I think if we see young folks and we see African Americans and brown people come out in non-presidential year elections and wait 4 hours in line, Republicans should be definitely afraid, and that is why I think they know it's coming.
Yeah, right.
And that is why, as soon as the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act, they went to work immediately, passing the most regressive voting laws possible.
It's absolutely ridiculous what's going on from a voting rights standpoint in all these different states. I think that's something too where we need to rise up as a movement and really push back on. And obviously, there's major issues of the day. The ruling on that issue was very disappointing to me. And, this country's taken tremendous steps over the past 20, 30, 40 years, but we have a lot of work to do, right? And so I think if we can get folks engaged on that, and if we can, I think we should actually use where those Republicans are trying to go with that issues to actually fire up our base and say, we can't let them pass those type of laws. And if they do, it's not going to stop us from getting to the polls. And so, again, I think that's where you're going to see a lot of change coming.
And I got to tell you, Marlon, I'm really hopeful. I think what I saw, when talking about, African Americans in our population, right? Like, whether we like it or not, both the Voting Rights Act decision and what happened last week in the George Zimmerman trial, I think has ignited a fire under the ass of African Americans. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're really, the fact that I'm going to have the same conversation with my children that my father had with me or that your father had with you. 26 years after that, it's ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And I've loved the movements going on around the country right now because I think you're seeing people, they want justice. And they know that they want to have a voice in what's going on with our justice system and with our country. And so, I was very, very disappointed in how that happened. I think a positive of that is you're starting to see, like you said, people rise up from African Americans and get really engaged. The thing that we need to do, particularly as an African American community too, is to make sure that energy turns into effective change moving forward.
I think you couldn't have said it better because it's not just about a rally and a protest with Reverend Al.
Right.
I love Reverend Al to death, but it's like, all right, now we have, for some of us, we have elections this November. We have your town sheriff and your water commissioner and your soil commissioner. But those people set laws. Those are people that push laws forward, like the Stand Your Ground law, and laws like it, laws that allow for more gentrification. And those elections matter.
People forget that, all politics really is local, right? And so let's take a look, for instance, at gun violence prevention. Right now, you're having a struggle in Congress of getting something through. But if you look at some states, Connecticut, obviously the horrible tragedy happened there, and they passed one of the best gun violence prevention laws there is out there, right? So at the state level, you can make real effective change. And again, even when you take it down to the local level, you can still make real effective change that's going to affect people every single day. And the more I think that our movement and our coalition of folks organize around those issues as well too, the more we're going to see the change that we're looking for. Not only does that help with the issues, but also helps, again, more people then become the future elected officials that ultimately get to the federal level.
Totally, and I think, young people are like I say, I think that the start where this interview started is that we're seeing them run for office, and I think after this Trayvon decision, we're going to see them run for more offices. And it's beyond just what you think it is. Like, we need to get elected judges.
Yeah, I agree.
Those are judges that like literally affect the daily lives of black men every single day of the week.
That's right. Every single day of the week. We have to look at the whole totality and really put together a strategic plan to say, what do we want to accomplish over the next year by the next election cycle, and go out there and get it done.
Marlon, don't be a stranger to the Fowler
I will not.
Show.
Thank you for having me.
These conversations are great. We've got to have these conversations. What you call the kitchen table conversations. It's something that we've got to do each and every day to make sure that we empower our community, inform our community, and help them get their voice back. Marlon Marshall, 270 strategies, working on getting 270 electoral votes for God knows who. We'll be right back on the Fowler Show after this break. Hey, Fowler Nation, the best thing you can do to support this channel is by clicking that subscribe button. And I got a secret for you. If we get to 1,500 subscribers, we will drop a special behind-the-scenes video just for you, Fowler Nation. That's how much I love you.